Blake Toppmeyer with John Adams of the USA Today Network, coming to you from SEC Media Days in Hoover, Alabama. John, we heard from 3 SEC coaches today. I was curious to hear from Ed Orgeron at LSU. It seems like a long time ago that LSU was winning a national championship. Of course, it was just 18 months ago, but a lot has happened since then. LSU coming off a 5-5 season. Ed Orgeron fired his coordinators, new coordinators. Ed Orgeron named in a Title IX lawsuit. So lots of questions about what went wrong last year, about the lawsuit, about whether he got the coordinator hires right this time around. It feels like to me, Ed Orgeron is one bad loss away from being on the hot seat, just 18 months removed from a national championship. Do you agree with that? And also, what did you think about the LSU coach's appearance today?
Well, I'm not sure if I will go as far as you did, Blake, on that one loss away. But I do think his tumble from that national championship has been one of the biggest I've ever seen in college football history. I mean, that was one of college football's greatest teams. To go from that, forget the off the field stuff, to go from that to 5-5 in 2020 was dramatic. I think at the end of last season, there had lost 33 players from that national championship team. So attrition had a lot to do with it. The off-the-field stuff certainly has complicated things. What struck me most about Ed Orgeron today, though, was how positive he was. It was almost as though he was talking about his 2019 team in preseason. And I don't remember what he said about that team, but he said, our offense is going to be great. We've got 2 championship quarterbacks. We've got 2 of the best quarterbacks in the league. Loves his offensive line, loves his new staff. So it's all good with Ed Orgeron. And when someone asked him about the off-the-field issues and the Title IX lawsuit, he said, I can't comment on that, but thanks for asking the question.
John,
he was in the best of moods.
Do you feel like we learned anything from the quarterback competition at LSU from Ed Orgeron today? I think that's one of the more interesting QB competitions in the conference, because I think both Max Johnson and Miles Brennan are good enough quarterbacks that LSU can thrive offensively this season. Do you feel like we got any tipping of the hand one way or the other there? And how do you ultimately think LSU will side in that quarterback competition?
I don't know that we got a tip of the hand. Maybe I'm just not observant enough. I didn't really pick up on anything. I just think that it really depends on whom you talk to as to who will be the starting quarterback. Miles Brennan probably knows the offense better. He's been there longer. He has a great arm. However, I really like Max Johnson and the way he played and the way he beat Florida under dire circumstances last season. Brennan, I think, has the arm, that big NFL arm, but to me, Johnson might have those intangibles. He also is a more mobile guy. So you're right. No matter whom they start, I think they can do well at quarterback. That's not their problem. It would have been interesting if Ed Orgeron would have named a starter after spring practice. I think the guy that didn't start might have transferred and started somewhere else. They both look pretty good.
John and I will be in Hoover throughout this 4-day event. This was day 1. We'll also be podcasting. You can hear us on Thursday morning. That's our new podcast, SEC Football Unfiltered. So check us out over there, and we'll be doing these video updates daily. We heard from 3 coaches today, John. Talked about Ed Orgeron. Florida's Dan Mullen also went today. I thought maybe the most interesting thing Dan Mullen said was when he kind of put on his commissioner's hat briefly and said he doesn't like these crossover rivalry games. The fact that everybody has a designated crossover rival for Florida, that is LSU, and then that only leaves one other interdivisional game every year. In Florida's case this year, that would be against Alabama. So 2 pretty tall challenges there from the West in facing LSU and Alabama. What did you think about Dan Mullen bringing that up? Do you think that's just a guy that's would rather see maybe Mississippi State and Arkansas a little more often than LSU, or do you think there's some merit there to getting rid of these interdivision rivalry games and just rotating the two teams you play in crossovers every year?
Well, personally, I prefer the latter. I think it was interesting, though, because most coaches just state the company line when it comes to those kind of issues. So you could say that Mullen sort of went rogue today, but I can see his point. I think it's really emphasized when you have to play LSU, which is traditionally really good. It has a lot of talented players, and Alabama in the same year. Then you've also got Georgia, which some people think will win the national championship. So you got two national championship contenders on your schedule. So, yeah, I was a little surprised that he did that, but that's kind of his personality.
Third coach we heard from today, John, new coach at South Carolina, Shane Beamer. He talked a mile a minute, but I thought overall he put on a pretty good performance during his turn on stage. I thought he came across to me as someone with a lot of energy, of course, a young coach, son of Frank Beamer, but I thought he's someone that I could see coming across really well with recruits. I thought he talked a good game. Does that help you win on Saturdays? Not necessarily, but I do think talking a good game can help you win some recruiting battles. What did you think of Shane Beamer's debut here at SEC Media Days?
I was tremendously impressed by him, Blake. This is a guy that's never been a head coach. Very articulate. And the thing that struck me the most, he came across as so genuine. And that, you brought up recruiting. That's everything in recruiting. I mean, never mind how that coaches are often putting on an act. It's imperative that they seem to not be putting on an act and that they are, in fact, genuine, because that's what I always hear from recruits and recruits' parents. Well, he was so honest with me. Okay. Well, so to me, a recruit listening to Frank Beamer would have been impressed. Frank Beamer. I'm thinking of his dad, Shane, and he sounded like someone who had grown up in a coach's home. His dad was the coach a long time at Virginia Tech, and he seemed so at ease. He said afterwards, he was on Paul Feinbaum's show, and he said that he was nervous. That didn't come across at all. He seemed very comfortable on that stage. He said he's been watching this SEC football media days for years, and I'm sure he picked up a lot from his dad. He looked like and sounded like a guy that's been doing this for quite a while.
He also told the media that if we ever need anything, to just let him know, and they'll take care of us out in Columbia, South Carolina. So maybe you should take him up on that, John. And if you need anything, just let Shane Beamer know and see if he delivers on that promise.
Well, I may call him in his hotel room tonight if I can get that number.
John and I will be in Hoover throughout the week. We'll check in with you tomorrow. And, of course, you can read all the news, coverage, and commentary throughout the USA Today network newspapers.